The sun was dipping low over Willow Creek's dusty baseball field, casting long shadows across the diamond where the willow wasps were locked in a tense, seventh-inning tie against their rivals, the Bentonville Bees. The small-town crowd buzzed with anticipation, their cheers rising as Tommy the Rocket Larson stepped up to bat. But before he could swing, a streak of fur tore across the outfield, dodging players and kicking up dirt. A scruffy mutt, with a matted brown coat and ears flapping like wings, sprinted straight for home plate. "Get that dog off the field," shouted the umpire, waving his arms. The crowd laughed, some clapping as the dog, later dubbed Rusty by the local kids, ignored the chaos and began digging furiously at home plate. Clumps of dirt flew, and the game screeched to a halt. Tommy stepped back, chuckling, while the catcher, Mike, tried to shoo Rusty away. But the dog was relentless, paws scraping until a metallic clank echoed across the field. The crowd fell silent. "What the?" Mike muttered, kneeling beside Rusty. The dog had uncovered a rusted iron ring embedded in the ground. Beneath it, a wooden trapdoor, weathered but intact, lay flush with the dirt. The umpire called a timeout, and curious players gathered around. Rusty sat back, tail wagging, as if he'd been waiting for this moment. Coach Harlan, a grizzled man who'd seen 3 decades of games on this field, pushed through the crowd. "Nobody's touched that plate in years," he said, scratching his beard. "Groundskeeper says it's always been solid." He grabbed a crowbar from the dugout, and with Tommy and Mike's help, they pried the trapdoor open. A musty smell wafted up, and a dark, narrow tunnel yawned below, its stone walls glinting faintly in the stadium lights. The crowd murmured, some leaning forward in the bleachers. Rusty didn't hesitate. He bounded into the tunnel, disappearing into the shadows. "Hey, wait," Tommy called, glancing at Mike. The two players, fueled by curiosity and the adrenaline of a paused game, grabbed flashlights from the groundskeeper's shed and followed, with Coach Harlan reluctantly trailing behind. The umpire, flustered, announced a 15-minute delay, but the crowd wasn't going anywhere. The tunnel was cramped, its walls slick with moss. Rusty's barks echoed ahead, guiding the trio deeper. Tommy, a lanky senior with dreams of the major, swept his flashlight across the walls, revealing faint carvings, spirals, arrows, and what looked like old initials scratched into the stone. "This ain't no sewer," he whispered. Mike, shorter and stockier, nodded, his eyes wide. "Feels like something out of a movie." After 100 feet, the tunnel opened into a wider chamber. Rusty stood in the center, sniffing at a pile of wooden crates stacked against the wall. Coach Harlan ran a hand over one, his fingers tracing faded stencils that read, "O'Malley's Finest Whiskey 1925. Tommy's jaw dropped. "Prohibition stuff," he said. "This must have been a smuggling hideout." Mike kicked at a crate, and it splintered, revealing glass bottles filled with amber liquid. But Rusty wasn't interested in the crates. He pawed at a small, locked chest half buried in the dirt. Coach Harlan knelt beside it, his hands shaking as he brushed away the soil. "My granddaddy used to talk about a speakeasy under the old field," he said. "Thought it was just stories." Tommy found a rusted key tucked behind a loose stone, and with a creak, the chest opened. Inside was a leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed but legible. The trio huddled around as Coach Harlan read aloud by flashlight. The journal belonged to a man named Silas O'Malley, a bootlegger who'd built the tunnel in the 1920s to smuggle liquor during Prohibition. The final entry, dated 1931, hinted at a hidden stash of gold coins. "My last haul," Silas wrote, "buried deeper still, where the diamond's heart lies." Rusty wind, nudging Tommy's leg. The dog's nose pointed to a corner of the chamber where the dirt was uneven. Mike grabbed a broken crate lid and started digging, uncovering a small, iron-bound box. Inside were a dozen gold coins, each stamped with a 1920s mint mark, glinting like they'd been waiting a century to be found. The trio stared, speechless, as Rusty barked in triumph. "We gotta get this back up top," Coach Harlan said, his voice low. "This changes everything." They climbed back to the surface, Rusty leading the way, the journal and coins tucked safely in Tommy's backpack. The crowd erupted as they emerged, the trapdoor now a spectacle, drawing kids and parents alike. The umpire, flustered but intrigued, extended the delay, and soon the town's historian, Miss Clara, was called to the field. Miss Clara, a wiry woman with a passion for Willow Creek's past, pored over the journal under the stadium lights. "This is incredible," she said, adjusting her glasses. Silas O'Malley was a legend. Half the town thought he was a myth. This tunnel could be a historical landmark. She traced the carvings on a photo Tommy snapped, noting they matched symbols from old bootlegger hideouts across the state. The game resumed, but the crowd's energy had shifted. Whispers of treasure and history spread, and Rusty, now leashed to the dugout, became the night's real MVP. Tommy hit a double, but even he admitted later that Rusty stole the show. By the ninth inning, the Wasps won 4-3, but the talk of Willow Creek was the tunnel and the dog who'd found it. In the weeks that followed, the town rallied around the discovery. The mayor declared the tunnel a protected site, and a local museum was planned to showcase Silas O'Malley's journal, the coins, and the whiskey crates. Experts confirmed that the coins were worth thousands, but the town voted to keep them as part of the exhibit, a nod to their shared history. The tunnel was reinforced for tours, its carvings studied by historians who linked them to a network of Prohibition smugglers. Rusty, once a stray, found a home with Coach Harlan, who built a doghouse in his backyard, painted with the Wasps logo. The team made Rusty their unofficial mascot, and kids flocked to pet him before games. Tommy, inspired by the find, started researching local history, hoping to uncover more secrets with Rusty by his side. Mike, ever practical, joked they should train Rusty to sniff out more treasure. On a crisp fall evening, months after the discovery, Willow Creek unveiled a plaque near home plate. The O'Malley Tunnel discovered by Rusty. 2025. The crowd cheered as Rusty, sporting a tiny Wasps jersey, trotted onto the field. Tommy tossed him a ball, and the dog caught it mid-air, sparking laughter from the stands. Miss Clara, standing nearby, leaned toward Coach Harlan. "That dog's got a nose for history," she said. Harlan grinned. "Or maybe history's got a nose for him." As the stadium lights flickered on, casting their glow over the diamond, the trapdoor lay sealed but not forgotten. Rusty settled beside Tommy in the dugout, his tail thumping against the bench. The game was about to start, but for a moment, all eyes were on the scruffy canine, who'd turned a small-town baseball field into a portal to the past. The crowd at Willow Creek's annual championship game was electric, the air thick with the smell of popcorn and the crack of bats. The Willow Wasps were down by 1 in the 8th inning, and Emma Carter, a 16-year-old scorekeeper with dreams of being an astrophysicist, watched from the bleachers, scribbling stats. Suddenly, a commotion erupted on the field. A retired police canine named Max, his black Hantan fur glinting under the stadium lights, tore across the outfield, dodging players and leaping over bases. The crowd roared with laughter as Max, who'd escaped his handler's nearby yard, made a beeline for home plate. "Somebody grabbed that dog," yelled the umpire, but Max was already digging, his paws flinging dirt like a machine. Emma leaned forward, intrigued, as Max's claws hit something solid. A metallic scrape silenced the crowd. The players froze, and Max stepped back, tail wagging, as a glowing trapdoor emerged beneath home plate, pulsing with faint blue light. Emma's heart raced. This wasn't normal. The umpire called a timeout, and players gathered around. Max's handler, Officer Daniels, arrived, red-faced, but even he paused at the sight. The trapdoor, etched with strange, spiraling symbols, hummed softly. Emma, unable to resist, slipped past the barrier and knelt beside Max. "What did you find, boy?" she whispered. Before anyone could stop her, she tugged the trapdoor open. A rush of wind and a blinding flash pulled her and Max into darkness, the door slamming shut behind them. Emma landed hard on a dirt floor, Max beside her, whining softly. Her flashlight was gone, but the tunnel around them glowed faintly, its stone walls carved with the same spirals from the trapdoor. The air felt different, thicker, warmer. Max nudged her, and they crept forward, the tunnel sloping downward. At its end, a wooden door creaked open, revealing a sunlit baseball field. Creaks, but different. The bleachers were wooden, not metal, and the crowd wore old-fashioned clothes, fedoras, suspenders, and flapper dresses. Emma's stomach dropped. "Max, where are we?" A scoreboard read Willow Wasps versus Bentonville Bees, 1925. Emma's mind spun. She'd read about time travel in her physics books, but this was impossible. Max, unfazed, trotted onto the field, where players in baggy uniforms stared. A man in a flat cap, the groundskeeper, approached, his eyes narrowing. "You don't belong here," he said, glancing at Max. "But that dog, he's been here before." Emma frowned. "What do you mean? What do you mean?" The groundskeeper, introducing himself as Elias, led them to a shed, Max padding alongside. Inside, he showed Emma a journal filled with sketches of the trapdoor's symbols and notes about a time anchor buried under the field. "It's experimental," Elias said, "built by a scientist who vanished in 24. The dog keeps showing up, like he's tied to it." Emma's pulse quickened. Max wasn't just a stray, he was connected to this portal. Max's ears perked, and he bolted back to the field. Emma and Elias, chasing after. The game was in full swing, but Max darted to the pitcher's mound, sniffing intently. Emma noticed a player, a wiry man with a scar on his cheek, slipping something into the dirt, a small ticking device that didn't belong in 1925. "He's sabotaging the game," Elias whispered. "The anchor's tied to this field. If it's destroyed, time could unravel." Emma's physics knowledge kicked in. The device could disrupt whatever stabilized the portal, trapping her here or worse. She and Max had to act. Elias handed her a crude map from the journal, marking a hidden panel under the mound where the anchor, a glowing crystal orb, was buried. Max, as if understanding, began digging, drawing the crowd's attention. The scarred player shouted, rushing toward them, but Max bared his teeth, giving Emma time to find the panel. Her hands shook as she unearthed the orb, its light pulsing in sync with the trapdoor's glow. The scarred player lunged, but Elias tackled him, yelling, "Go, kid." Emma clutched the orb, and Max led her back to the tunnel, the crowd's cheers fading into chaos. The door slammed shut, and the tunnel's glow intensified. Emma held Max close, the orb humming in her hands. "Take us home, boy," she whispered. A flash enveloped them, and Emma blinked, finding herself back on the modern Willow Creek field. The crowd was still there. The game paused. The trapdoor opened, but no longer glowing. Max wagged his tail, the orb now dull in Emma's hands. Officer Daniels ran over, bewildered. "Where'd you go? You were gone for seconds." Emma, heart pounding, stammered, "It's complicated." The umpire resumed the game, but Emma's mind was elsewhere. She hid the orb in her backpack, knowing she couldn't tell anyone, not yet. Max stayed by her side, his eyes calm but knowing. After the Wasps' narrow victory, Emma slipped away, Max trotting beside her. She found Elias's journal in her bag, though she hadn't taken it. A new entry, in fresh ink, read, "The dog guards the anchor. Trust him." Emma shivered. Elias had known she'd return. In the days that followed, Emma researched the 1925 game. Old newspapers mentioned a strange disturbance on the field, blamed on a wild dog, but no trace of Elias or the scarred player. The trapdoor, when checked, was sealed. The tunnel collapsed, as if it had never existed. Emma kept the orb, hidden, studying its faint etchings in her room. Max always nearby. She began to suspect the portal wasn't gone just dormant. At school, Emma's physics teacher noticed her sudden obsession with quantum mechanics and temporal theory. She didn't dare mention the truth, but asked hypothetical questions about time loops. Max, now living with Emma after Daniels agreed she was his true handler, became her shadow. One night, as she studied the orb, Max whined, pawing at her window. Outside, the field's lights flickered oddly. Though no game was scheduled, Emma grabbed her flashlight and the orb, Max leading her back to the diamond. Home plate was undisturbed, but Max sniffed the air, growling softly. The orb pulsed once, faintly. Emma's breath caught. "Not yet, Max," she said, patting his head. "But we'll be ready." She didn't know if the portal would reopen, or if the scarred player's allies were still out there. But Max's steady gaze told her they'd face it together. The town never learned of the adventure, though Max became a local celebrity, trotting out with the Wasps at every game. Emma, now dreaming of unraveling time's mysteries, kept the journal close, its pages a map to secrets only she and Max understood. As the stadium lights dimmed that night, she whispered, "Good boy, Max. You found more than a tunnel." Max licked her hand, and they walked home, the diamond silent behind them, its secrets buried for now. The lights of Willow Creek's minor league stadium blazed against the night sky, illuminating a tied game in the 9th inning. The Willow Wasps were battling the Bentonville Bees, and the crowd of 2,000 roared with every pitch. In the shadows of the bleachers, security guard Javier Torres leaned against a railing, his canine partner, Shadow, a sleek German shepherd, sitting alert by his side. Javier's radio crackled with routine chatter, but Shadow's ears twitched, sensing something off. Before Javier could react, Shadow bolted onto the field, a black streak dodging players and sprinting straight for home plate. "Hey, Shadow, no!" Javier shouted, chasing after him. The crowd laughed as Shadow, ignoring the chaos, began digging furiously at home plate, dirt flying like shrapnel. The umpire waved his arms, calling a timeout, but Shadow's paws hit something solid and metallic. Clank silenced the stands. Javier knelt beside his dog, heart pounding, as Shadow uncovered a steel trapdoor, its edges rusted but sealed tight. The players stepped back, murmuring, as Shadow sat back, tail thumping, eyes fixed on the door. "What's this?" Javier muttered, brushing dirt from the trapdoor's surface. It was unmarked, but a faint hum vibrated beneath it. The head, Pete, pushed through the crowd, frowning. "Ain't nobody touched that plate in years," he said. "Was here when I started." Javier grabbed a crowbar from Pete's toolkit, and with the help of the Wasps' catcher, Luis, they pried the trapdoor open. A dark tunnel yawned below, its concrete walls smooth and modern for a stadium built in the 60s. The crowd buzzed, phones out, recording the scene. Shadow didn't wait. He leaped into the tunnel, his barks echoing back. Javier cursed under his breath, grabbing his flashlight and following, with Luis volunteering to tag along. "Stay here, keep the crowd back," Javier told Pete, who nodded, wide-eyed. The umpire extended the timeout, sensing this was no ordinary interruption. The tunnel was narrow, its air cool and stale. Shadow's barks led the way, his nose low to the ground. Javier's flashlight swept across the walls, catching glints of metal-reinforced supports, not old stone like he'd expected. "This isn't some forgotten cellar," he said. Luis, gripping his bat like a weapon, nodded. "Looks like something built yesterday." 50 feet in, the tunnel widened into a small chamber. Shadow stood by a sleek, black safe embedded in the wall, its digital lock glowing faintly. Javier's stomach dropped. "This is bad," he said. "Nobody builds a safe like that for nothing." Shadow sniffed the floor, pawing at a canvas bag tucked behind a crate. Javier opened it, revealing tools, lockpicks, a drill, and a burner phone. Luis whistled. "This is a heist setup." Javier's training kicked in. He'd worked security for a decade, but Shadow's instincts were sharper than any tech. The dog's nose led to a faint scratch mark on the safe, a trace of explosive residue. "They're planning to blow it," Javier said, his voice tight. He radioed for backup, but the signal was weak underground. Shadow growled, ears perked, and darted back toward the tunnel's entrance. Javier and Luis followed, emerging to find the game still paused, the crowd restless dot in the stands. Javier spotted a man in a black cap, eyes darting nervously. Shadow zeroed in, hackles raised, and Javier knew he was part of this. "Luis, stay with the trapdoor," Javier whispered. "Don't let anyone near it." Luis nodded, gripping his bat tighter. Javier and Shadow wove through the crowd, the dog's nose locked on the man, who bolted toward an exit. The chase was on, but man ducked into a service corridor. Shadow, close behind, Javier's boots pounded the concrete as he radioed again, this time reaching Detective Sarah Klein, a friend from the precinct who was off duty at the game. "We've got a heist in progress," Javier panted, describing the tunnel and safe. Sarah met them at the corridor's end, where Shadow had cornered the man, now sweating and empty-handed. "Talk," Sarah said, her badge gleaming. "What's in the safe?" The man, named Eddie, cracked under Shadow's low growl. "Diamonds," he stammered, "stolen from a job in Chicago. We hid M here, under the field. Supposed to grab M tonight during the game." He admitted to being part of a syndicate using the stadium as a drop point. The tunnel dug months ago under cover of maintenance work. The safe held millions in untraceable gems, and the burner phone in the bag was set to signal accomplices in the crowd. Sarah cuffed Eddie, while Javier and Shadow raced back to the field. The game had resumed, but Javier's eyes scanned the stands. Shadow's nose picked up another scent, leading to a woman in a hoodie slipping toward an exit. Javier signaled Sarah, who intercepted her, finding a remote detonator in her pocket. "They were gonna blow the safe during the final out," Sarah said, shaking her head. "Use the chaos to slip away." With the accomplices detained, Javier and Shadow returned to the tunnel. Bomb squad techs, called in by Sarah, disarmed the safe's explosives, revealing a stash of glittering diamonds inside. The crowd, unaware of the full drama, cheered as the Wasps clinched a 5-4 victory. Javier, Shadow, and Sarah stayed late, briefing the police as the stadium emptied. The tunnel was sealed, the safe removed, and the diamonds sent to evidence. By morning, Willow Creek was abuzz with news of the foiled heist. The local paper dubbed Shadow the Diamond Dog, and the Wasps' management gifted him a custom collar with a silver baseball charm. Javier, usually reserved, accepted a commendation from the mayor, though he insisted Shadow deserved the credit. "He's got a nose for trouble," Javier said, ruffling Shadow's ears. The team invited Javier and Shadow to the next game, where the crowd gave them a standing ovation. Luis, grinning, tossed Shadow a ball, which the dog caught mid-air, sparking cheers. Behind the scenes, Sarah dug into the syndicate, tracing their network to other drop points. The tunnel, now filled with concrete, became a legend, whispered about by groundskeepers and fans alike. Javier, back on duty the next week, patrolled the stadium with Shadow, who seemed unfazed by his newfound fame. As the lights dimmed after another game, Javier paused by home plate. "Now just dirt again." "Good boy," he said, scratching Shadow's head. "You kept this place safe." Shadow's tail wagged, his eyes scanning the dark, as if sensing trouble no one else could see. For now, the diamond was quiet, but Javier knew Shadow would be ready for whatever came next. The moon hung low over Willow Creek's rural baseball field, casting an eerie glow on the patchy grass where the Willow Wasps faced off against the Bentonville Bees in a late-season game. The crowd, a mix of farmers and townsfolk, cheered as the score tied in the 7th inning. Suddenly, a haunting howl cut through the noise, and a lean, silver-furred canine named Luna darted onto the field. Her ghostly eyes gleamed as she sprinted past startled players, her claws tearing at the dirt around home plate. "Whose dog is that?" the umpire barked, waving his arms. The crowd's laughter turned to gasps as Luna's digging revealed a wooden trapdoor, its edges carved with strange, spiraling symbols that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. Luna's howls grew sharper, almost warning, as she pawed at the door. The game halted, and the players backed away, uneasy. Jake, the Wasps' star pitcher, a lanky 19-year-old with a knack for ghost stories, stepped forward. "That's no ordinary stray," he muttered, kneeling beside Luna. The groundskeeper, Old Man Tate, shuffled over, his face pale. "That plate's been here since the field was built in 1890. Never seen nothing under it." Jake, fueled by curiosity and a shiver of dread, grabbed a crowbar from Tate's shed. With the catcher, Mia, holding a flashlight, they pried the trapdoor open. A cold wind rushed out, carrying faint whispers that made the crowd hush. Luna didn't hesitate. She leaped into the dark tunnel below, her barks echoing. Jake exchanged a glance with Mia. "We can't let her go alone," he said. Against Tate's protests, they followed, flashlights cutting through the gloom. The tunnel was narrow, its stone walls slick with damp and etched with more symbol circles, eyes, and jagged lines that seemed to writhe in the flickering light. The air grew colder, the whispers louder, forming words Jake couldn't quite catch. Luna led the way, her growls low and steady, as if warding off something unseen. "This place feels wrong," Mia whispered, clutching her flashlight tighter. Jake nodded, his heart pounding. The stories his grandma told about a cult that once owned this land suddenly didn't seem so far-fetched. The tunnel opened into a circular chamber, its floor littered with rusted relics, candle stubs, broken glass vials, and a cracked stone altar carved with the same symbols. Luna circled the altar, her hackles raised, barking at shadows that seemed to move on their own. Jake's flashlight caught a faded photograph tucked into a crevice, a group of robed figures, their faces blurred, standing on the field above. Mia gasped. "This is old, real old." Before they could process it, the whispers grew into a chorus, sharp and angry. Shadows thickened, forming vague shapes, human-like, but not quite. Luna's barks turned ferocious, her eyes glowing as she lunged at the air. The shapes recoiled, and Jake felt a chill down his spine. "We need to get out," he said, grabbing Mia's arm, but Luna darted to a corner, digging at the dirt until she uncovered a small, iron box. Jake pried it open, revealing a blackened amulet, its surface etched with a single, glowing eye. The whispers spiked, and the air grew heavy, pressing on their chests. Mia, trembling, said, "We need help." Jake remembered Miss Clara, the town historian, who'd once lectured his class about Willow Creek's dark past. They scrambled back to the surface, Luna clutching the amulet in her jaws. The crowd, still gathered, murmured as the trio emerged, the trapdoor now a focal point of fear and fascination. Jake spotted Miss Clara in the stands, her glasses glinting, and waved her over. The umpire, shaken, extended the timeout, sensing something beyond a simple delay. Ms. Clara examined the amulet, her face grim. "This is from the Order of the Hollow Eye," she said, her voice low. "A cult that practiced rituals here in the 1880s. They believed they could summon something. This field was their sacred ground." She pointed to the symbols on the trapdoor, now faintly glowing. "Opening this broke a seal. We've got to close it, or worse will come." Luna growled, her eyes fixed on the trapdoor. The whispers returned, louder, and the crowd shifted uneasily, some claiming they heard voices too. Ms. Clara pulled a notebook from her bag, flipping to a page of handwritten chants. "These are from old records," she said. "They might reseal it." Jake, Mia, and Ms. Clara descended again, Luna leading, her barks keeping the shadows at bay. In the chamber, the air was thicker, the shapes more defined, tall, cloaked figures with hollow eyes. Luna's snarls held them back, her presence a shield. Ms. Clara chanted, her voice steady despite the growing cold. Jake and Mia held the amulet, its glow dimming as the words filled the chamber. The shadows writhed, their whispers turning to shrieks, but Luna stood firm, her barks a defiant rhythm. The altar cracked, and the shapes dissolved into mist, the air lightening, the amulet dulled, now just cold metal. Miss Clara exhaled. "It's done. But we need to bury this deep." Back on the field, they sealed the trapdoor with cement from Tate's shed, Miss Clara inscribing protective runes from her notes. Luna, calmer now, sat by Jake, the amulet buried beneath the plate. The game resumed, the Wasps scraping a 3-2 win, but the crowd's cheers felt hollow. Whispers of the tunnel spread, though most dismissed it as a prank. Jake and Mia knew better. Ms. Clara warned them to keep quiet. "The order's gone, but their rituals linger," she said. Luna sensed it. "She's no ordinary dog." Jake adopted Luna, unable to let her roam after what they'd seen. The town buried the story, but Luna's nightly howls kept Jake awake, her eyes fixed on the field from his window. He'd catch glimpses of shadows moving in the distance. Though the trapdoor stayed sealed. At the season's final game, Luna trotted onto the field with Jake, now a local hero. The crowd cheered, unaware of the truth, but Ms. Clara, watching from the stands, nodded at Jake. Luna's collar, a gift from Mia, glinted under the lights. As the game ended, Jake knelt by Luna, whispering, "You're guarding more than the diamond, aren't you?" Luna's eyes met his, steady and knowing, as the stadium lights dimmed, leaving the field silent but not empty. The summer sun blazed over Willow Creek's baseball field, where the Willow Wasps were locked in a tight game against the Bentonville Bees. Sam Carter, a wiry 12-year-old with a mop of brown hair, sat in the bleachers, sneaking glances at his older brother, Ethan, the Wasps' star shortstop. Beside Sam was Scout, their scruffy canine mutt, a bundle of energy with floppy ears and a nose for trouble. Sam had begged to bring Scout to the game, promising their mum he'd keep the dog leashed. But when Ethan hit a double, Sam's cheers loosened his grip, and Scout bolted onto the field, a furry blur chasing the ball. "Scout, no!" Sam yelled, scrambling after him. The crowd roared with laughter as Scout dodged players, his paws skidding to a stop at home plate. He began digging furiously, dirt flying like confetti. The umpire called a timeout, waving his arms, but Scout ignored him, unearthing a wooden trapdoor beneath the plate. The crowd hushed, their amusement turning to curiosity. Ethan jogged over, frowning. "Sam, what's your dog doing?" Sam, red-faced, knelt beside Scout, who sat back, tail wagging, as if proud of his find. The trapdoor was old, its edges worn, with a rusted iron ring at its center. The groundskeeper, Mr. Jenkins, pushed through the gathering players, scratching his head. "That's been under there since forever," he said. "Never thought much of it." Ethan, always up for adventure, grabbed a crowbar from Jenkins' shed. With Sam's help, they pried the door open, revealing a dark, earthy tunnel below. Scout barked, bounding into the darkness before Sam could stop him. "Stay here, Sam," Ethan said, but Sam shook his head. "No way, he's my dog." Mr. Jenkins, grumbling but curious, followed with a flashlight. The umpire, flustered, announced a 15-minute delay, and the crowd buzzed, some climbing the bleachers. For a better view, Sam, Ethan, and Jenkins descended into the tunnel, its cool air smelling of dirt and time. Scout's barks echoed ahead, guiding them through a narrow passage lined with crumbling stone walls. The tunnel widened into a small chamber, where Scout sniffed at a pile of wooden crates. Sam's flashlight caught glints of metal and paper, photographs, letters, and a tattered baseball glove stuffed into a crate. Ethan picked up a photo, showing a team in old-fashioned uniforms, standing on their field. "Willow Wasps, 1910, he read aloud, his voice hushed. "This is our team, from the beginning." Sam found a letter, its ink faded but legible, mentioning a championship trophy hidden where the diamond's heart beats. Scout wind, pawing at a dirt-covered corner. Mr. Jenkins, squinting at the letter, said, "My grandpa talked about a lost trophy from the Wasps' first championship, thought it was a myth." Scout's digging intensified, uncovering a loose stone slab. Ethan and Sam heaved it aside, revealing a small, locked chest. Sam's heart raced as Jenkins handed him a rusted key, found tucked in a crate. The chest creaked open, revealing a silver trophy, its surface engraved with Willow Wasps, Champions, 1910. Beside it was a map, sketching the tunnel and marking a final cache deeper within. "Scout, you're a genius," Sam said, ruffling his dog's ears. But as they admired the trophy, the chamber shook, dirt sifting from the ceiling. A low rumble echoed, and a section of the wall collapsed, blocking the tunnel back to the surface. Sam's stomach dropped. "We're trapped," he whispered. Ethan gripped the trophy, his face calm but tense. "Not yet. Scout got us here. Get us out." Scout, as if understanding, sniffed the air and darted to another corner, barking at a pile of rubble. Sam and Ethan dug, following his lead, while Jenkins cleared debris. Scout's nose uncovered a narrow side passage, barely wide, enough for Sam. "This must be the way," Ethan said, squeezing through with Sam and Jenkins behind. Scout lead, his barks steady, until they reached a second chamber. There, a hidden exitant, another trapdoor lay under a thin layer of dirt, its hinges rusted but intact. Ethan pushed it open, and moonlight spilled in. They emerged in the outfield. Just beyond the left field fence, the crowd's cheers faint in the distance. Sam clutched the trophy, Scout bounding beside him as they ran back to the diamond. The game was still paused. The crowd now gathered round home plate, buzzing with rumors. Ethan held up the trophy, and the stands erupted. Sam, grinning, hugged Scout, who licked his face. The town's mayor, a Wasps fan, was called to the field. He examined the trophy and the map, his eyes wide. "This is history," he said. "The Wasps' first win put Willow Creek on the map." He called Ms. Clara, the town historian, who arrived with a notebook full of old records. She confirmed the trophy's authenticity, linking it to a 1910 championship won before the field was officially built. The map, she said, hinted at other relics, but the tunnel's collapse made further exploration risky. The game resumed, and Ethan hit a game-winning homer. But the real star was Scout. The crowd chanted his name as Sam held the trophy aloft, his chest swelling with pride. In the weeks that followed, the trophy was displayed in the town hall, a glass case built around it with a plaque, "Willow Wasp's Lost Legacy, found by Scout 2020. The tunnel was sealed for safety. But Ms. Clara began researching the map, hoping to uncover more of the Wasp's history. Sam and Ethan grew closer, their bond strengthened by the adventure. Scout became a fixture at games, trotting onto the field with Ethan, a tiny Wasp's jersey tied around his neck. Sam, inspired, started a scrapbook of the find, pasting in photos and letters from the crates. One night, as he sat with Scout in his room, he found a final note in the map's folds. "The diamond holds more than victory guard its heart." Sam shivered, wondering what else lay beneath the field at the season's final game. Scout lay in the dugout, chewing a ball. Ethan tossed him. The crowd cheered as the Wasps won, but Sam's eyes lingered on home plate. "You knew something was down there, didn't you?" he whispered to Scout. The dog's tail thumped, his eyes bright, as if guarding a secret only he understood. As the stadium lights dimmed, Sam and Ethan walked home, Scout trotting between them, the diamond silent but alive with the legacy they'd uncovered. The Willow Creek Wasps were down by 2 in the 9th inning, the crowd of 1,500 buzzing under the stadium's aging lights. Riley Parker, a 15-year-old with a knack for fixing electronics and a front-row seat courtesy of her uncle, the team's coach, watched intently as the batter stepped up. Suddenly, a wiry canine dog with a patchy grey coat later named Bolt by the kid store across the field, his paws kicking up dust as he dodged outfielders. The crowd erupted in cheers and laughter as Bolt zeroed in on home plate, digging with a frenzy that silenced the stands. "Get that mutt," the umpire shouted, but Riley, perched on the bleacher's edge, leaned forward, intrigued. Bolt's claws struck metal, a sharp clang echoing across the diamond. The game halted, and players gathered as Bolt uncovered a sleek, metallic hatch, its surface etched with glowing, circuit-like patterns pulsing faintly blue. Riley's heart skipped. She'd seen sci-fi movies, but this was real. Coach Parker, a burly man with a soft spot for strays, jogged over, frowning. "What's under my field?" he muttered. The groundskeeper, Ms. Ellie, shook her head. "That plate's been here since the 50s. Nothing's under it." Riley, unable to resist, slipped past the barrier, kneeling beside Bolt. The dog's eyes met hers, steady and knowing. Coach Parker grabbed a crowbar, and with the catcher, Ben, they pried the hatch open. A low hum vibrated the air, and a tunnel yawned below, its walls smooth and metallic, glinting unnaturally. The crowd murmured, "Phones out, filming." Bolt didn't wait. He leaped into the tunnel, his barks echoing. Riley glanced at her uncle. "I'm going after him." Coach Parker sighed, grabbing a flashlight. "Stay close, kid." Ben volunteered to stay topside, keeping the crowd back. The umpire, flustered, called a 15-minute delay. But the fans weren't leaving. The tunnel was cold, its walls lined with strange panels that pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Riley's sneakers squeaked on the smooth floor, and Bolt's barks led the way. "This isn't human," Riley whispered, her tech-savvy mind racing. The tunnel opened into a circular chamber, its center dominated by a console of sleek, black metal, covered in glowing symbols. Bolt sniffed a pedestal, where a holographic map flickered to life, showing Earth and a blinking dot over Willow Creek. Coach Parker's jaw dropped. "What in the world?" Riley approached the console, her fingers brushing a panel. A soft chime sounded, and the map zoomed out, revealing a network of lines connecting Earth to distant stars. Bolt pawed at a small, spherical device embedded in the floor, its surface warm and humming. Riley's stomach churned. This was no forgotten bunker. "Uncle, this is alien," she said, half expecting him to laugh. But Coach Parker's face was grim. "Whatever it is, we're in over our heads." Bolt nudged the sphere, and it lit up, emitting a high-pitched whine. The chamber shook, and above, the crowd gasped as strange green lights danced in the sky, visible through the open hatch. Riley's phone, useless underground, buzzed faintly, picking up static. "It's sending a signal," she said, piecing it together. Bolt activated something. Coach Parker grabbed her arm. "We need to shut it down now." Riley studied the console, her hands trembling but steady from years of tinkering with circuit boards. The symbols were unfamiliar, but patterns emerged, logic circuits, like a computer. Bolt's nose guided her to a panel with a recessed slot. She found a small, crystal-like key in a nearby compartment, its edges glowing. "This might be it," she said, sliding it into the slot. The console hummed louder, the holographic map flickering, but the green lights outside intensified, and a low rumble shook the ground. "We're running out of time," Coach Parker said, his voice tight. Riley's mind raced, recalling sci-fi novels about alien tech. "It's a beacon," she realized, "calling something or someone." Bolt growled, his ears pinned, as if sensing danger. Riley twisted the key, and the console powered down, the sphere dimming. The lights in the sky faded, and the rumbling stopped. The crowd's murmurs filtered down, now mixed with relief. Riley grabbed the crystal key, tucking it into her pocket. "We can't tell anyone," she said. Coach Parker nodded. "This stays between us." They climbed back to the surface, Bolt trotting ahead, the hatch still open but no longer glowing. The crowd cheered, thinking it was a stunt, as the game resumed. Riley and Coach Parker exchanged a look, silent agreement sealing their secret. Bolt sat by Riley, his tail thumping, as the Wasps clinched a 4-3 win. After the game, Ms. Ellie helped seal the hatch with cement, muttering about weird plumbing. Riley kept the crystal key hidden, its faint glow a reminder of the chamber below. The town buzzed with talk of the UFO lights, but most dismissed it as a publicity stunt. Riley, however, scoured her uncle's old astronomy books, finding REFERENCES, 2 unexplained signals from Willow Creek decades ago. The field, she learned, sat on a geomagnetic anomaly perfect for an alien beacon. Bolt became a local hero, adopted by Coach Parker. The Wasps made him their mascot, and kids flocked to pet him before games. Riley, now obsessed with the chamber's tech, sketched the symbols in a notebook, determined to decode them. One night, as she studied the crystal key under her desk lamp, Bolt whined, pawing at her window. Outside, the field's lights flickered, though no game was scheduled. Riley grabbed her flashlight and the key, Bolt leading her to the diamond. The sealed hatch was quiet, but the key pulsed faintly in her hand. "Not yet, boy," she whispered, patting Bolt's head. "But we'll figure it out." The dog's eyes gleamed, as if he understood. As they walked home, the stars above Willow Creek seemed brighter, and Riley wondered what else the diamond hid and what Bolt might find next.